What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking our top 15 must-own players for the 2022 fantasy football season. Basically, these are the guys that I am drafting in all of my leagues, regardless of the format, because simply put, they all have league-winning upside. So make sure to tune in. If you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comments section. Do you agree, disagree? What other names do you guys have on your must-own players for this 2022 fantasy football season? Along with any other questions you guys might have, I'll do my best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, available for purchase. Everything you can want at a great value. Top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. All those details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into it. And as you can see here, we have got our list. And I'm going to be talking players at every position. I'm going to be talking players throughout every round. So let's just kick it off. And number one on our list here, I've got Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints, running back. A guy that I think come September is going to find his way back in the first round. But the reason why Kamara dropped so much in between, like, let's say March to like July, and why he has done such a big fluctuation in rankings is because a lot of people expected him to be suspended for an unknown period of time this season due to his incident during the Pro Bowl. But news came out that that will likely not be happening this season, which means Kamara should be available for the entire 2022 year, which means he belongs in the top 5 running back conversations for fantasy purposes, specifically in PPR formats. For a fact there, I think him, Austin Eckler, you could argue are the closest things that we have to Christian McCaffrey in the league for fantasy football. And as long as Jameis Winston is the quarterback, Alvin Kamara, his ceiling remains very high. We saw it last season with Winston under center. Kamara was still a top 5 running back. He got a lot shakier once Winston got hurt. But again, we're not projecting any injuries here. So for that reason, Kamara with an offense led by Jameis Winston, much higher scoring potential. He's still going to be getting those dinks and dumps. He's still the main running back for the team. Very nasty, good offensive line. I really like Kamara. And the fact that you can get him in some spots still in the second round, I think it's absolute highway robbery. He should be in consideration for a top 5 pick. Next, moving on, we've got Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. I've been on the Aaron Jones bandwagon pretty much immediately since Davante Adams left from Green Bay to the Raiders. Simply put, Aaron Jones without Davante Adams becomes one of, if not the top target in the passing attack for Aaron Rodgers, and that is a big deal, again, especially in PPR formats. I still think that the rushing attack, even though A.J. Dillon is going to be involved, Aaron Jones is going to have the majority of it, whether it's 55-45, 60-40, whatever the case might be. I think Aaron Jones still is the favorite in that category. Sure, there might be situations where A.J. Dillon vultures him for touchdowns. I understand that. It's tough. But due to his pass catching ability, he has such a high floor. And the fact that you can get him in the middle to end of the second round, tremendous value. I think we're going to see peak Aaron Jones, a guy that can be very well knocking on the door of a top 5 performance. Honestly, wouldn't be shocked if he leads the Packers in receptions, maybe even yards. That's how crazy involved he could be without Davante Adams. Moving on, our number 3 guy on the list, we've got Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. Again, a name that has seen a big-time rise in his ADP compared to where he was back in March. At that point in time, he was a 3rd-round selection. Now he's going in the early 2nd round, sometimes even in the 1st round. And that's because people realize that the improvements that the Giants have made from last season to this season are significant. Look, they've improved that offensive line. Saquon Barkley is another year removed from his injury. We've heard continuously that he's going to be the focal point of this offense, that he's going to see a large workload. You know, you've got some competent head coaches there, some staff as well. I think Barkley is going to be the focal point of this offense. The guy that, you know, the Giants can rely on the most. Daniel Jones can rely on the most. I think he's a very good, well-rounded running back, the type of guy that can lead the league in rushing and also be, arguably top 5-ish in terms of targets and receptions. So to me, that's very, very valuable. If you can still get him at the end of the second round, tremendous, tremendous value. Kudos to you. Definitely pull the trigger on that. Then at number 4, we go to Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. Another guy that I think tremendous value. Sure, there might be some sexier names out there people are paying attention to instead. Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, no thank you. Give me Ezekiel Elliott 10 times out of 10. Look, the guy, all he does is give you top 10 fantasy seasons at the running back position. That's incredibly valuable, yet he's being drafted in the 3rd round of drafts pretty much across the board. I think that's absolutely wild. The reason why he was underwhelming last season and why Tony Pollard got more run is because Ezekiel Elliott got hurt very early on in the season. Everyone has made that known. Zeke, the Cowboys, and everyone has said that Zeke is still the guy for the Dallas Cowboys as far as the running back position goes. I think people are way overvaluing Tony Pollard and just completely sleeping on Ezekiel Elliott. Sure, Zeke might not be a top 3, top 5 pick anymore, but I don't think he's done as far as being fantasy relevant, at least not in this 2022 season. I am still in on him. The fact you can get an RB1 in the 3rd round, tremendous value. Then we go to Michael Pittman, our first wide receiver here at the number 5 spot for the Indianapolis Colts. He's a guy that his ADP has been rising a little bit as of late, going like in the 3rd round. If you get him in the 4th round, I like that value a lot more. But with the quarterback improvement in Matt Ryan, I think Michael Pittman last year had a little bit of a mini breakout with Carson Wentz. I expect that to continue with Matt Ryan. I still believe in Matt Ryan. I think a lot of the issues Ryan had these last couple of years was with the Falcons and specifically with a awful offensive line that couldn't keep him upright. Now you go to one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. He's going to have so much more time. Pittman is the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. I expect big things from him. Maybe like a Keenan Allen type of season. I think he can be a low-end wide receiver 1. You give me that in the end of the 3rd, early 4th round, I will take that all day. Next, we go to Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a guy that I've been pounding the drum for since, the James Robinson Achilles injury last season. Now, the Jaguars have said James Robinson not going to start the season on the PUP list, which I think is wild, and that he's going to be out there for week 1. That's not scaring me off Travis Etienne. Folks, let's not forget what happened with Cam Akers last season. He had a very quick rehab. I'm not going to say it was rushed or anything like that, but this is a similar type of situation with James Robinson, and you're just not the same as at the running back position after suffering an Achilles injury, one of the most brutal injuries in all of sports. The explosiveness, the cutting, the agility, it is just not there. I think Etienne is going to lead the Jaguars in terms of rushing, in terms of receiving at the running back position. You can get him in the 4th round. Maybe some people right now are even dropping him down their boards because of the James Robinson news. I still think he can be a high-end running back 2 on the year. Next, we go to Allen Robinson, one of my favorites. If you guys have been following along with our mocks, with other breakdowns that we've done at the wide receiver position in the middle rounds, you can get Allen Robinson anywhere from like the 5th round, 6th round even. I'd be all right taking him like in the 3rd, 4th round. But again, if you can get that discount, why not take advantage of it? Look, folks, Allen Robinson last season, throw that year away. He was kept hostage by the Chicago Bears with awful quarterback play, with a lame duck quarterback. Head coach, and a bad situation with the franchise tag. And for that reason, he gets a clean slate. Now he goes to the Rams with Matthew freaking Stafford that just made Cooper Kupp like a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a Triple Crown winner. I'm telling you, the gap between Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp is going to be a lot smaller than people realize. Allen Robinson has been a top 12 wide receiver with guys like Blake Bortles and freaking Mitch Trubisky. With Matthew Stafford extremely underrated, I think Allen Robinson can get back into that category. This is a high-scoring offense. They throw to their wide receivers a lot. I'm not too worried about the elbow injury for Matthew Stafford. If that becomes more serious, then yes, we can have a conversation. But right now, the Rams don't seem to be panicking, which means I'm not panicking. And Allen Robinson, I think, is going to be just the best Rams wide receiver value in fantasy football this season. Next, we move on to Marquis Brown of the Arizona Cardinals, formerly of the Ravens, gets traded to the Cardinals after they were anticipating DeAndre Hopkins getting suspended for the first 6 games. And now Marquis Brown is in a great situation to, be the number 1 wide receiver for Kyler Murray in another high-scoring, high-octane offense for the first third of the fantasy season. And then where DeAndre Hopkins returns, look, he was injured last season. He could potentially have some rust. I think Marquis Brown is going to still retain wide receiver 1 value once DeAndre Hopkins returns. You can get Marquis Brown in the 5th, 6th round. We saw what he was doing last season with Lamar Jackson when that duo was healthy in Baltimore, finally broke out. I think he can do it again with Kyler Murray, who's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. So yes, I am in on Marquis Brown this season. And speaking of Kyler Murray, he is our next name on this list, our first quarterback. And typically, look, I don't draft quarterbacks too early, but I do think Kyler Murray belongs in the tier 1 conversation for quarterbacks. The top 5 guys, we've got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. So last season, look, the guy was playing great. The guy was a top 5 fantasy quarterback until he got injured, until his weapons got injured, and then it kind of fell off. But again, projecting health for this core, and then once DeAndre Hopkins returns on top of that, I think Kyler Murray is going to have so many great weapons at his disposal. You've also got Zach Ertz as well. I think people are sleeping on him. You can get him in the 6th round. I think that's absolutely wild, getting a tier 1 quarterback in the 6th round. I would do that all day, every day. I am in on Kyler Murray again this season. Next, we go to Juju Smith-Schuster of the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, he's not going to be Tyreek Hill 2.0. Let's just throw that out the window right now. But what he can be is the 1B to Travis Kelce's 1A. And he's the top wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs without a question. What's he got to contend with? Mecole Hardman, who hasn't done jack so far in his NFL career, with a bunch of rookies that don't have real NFL experience. Give me Juju Smith-Schuster all day long. He's going like in the 7th, 8th round. I think we're not talking enough about him as being a potentially top 15 wide receiver. This is the best situation that he's had since his breakout season, I believe, in 2018 with Antonio Brown and Big Ben. Patrick Mahomes is an upgrade over Big Ben. Travis Kelce is, just as big of an issue for defenses. I think for that reason, Juju Smith-Schuster, kind of that secondary role, is going to be very, very useful for this offense. Again, a high-octane, high-scoring offense in a division with, are you kidding me, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Raiders. Those are going to be high-scoring affairs. I'm in on Juju Smith this season. Next, we go to Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens. And with Rashad Bateman, I think that basically he steps into the Marquis Brown role of last season. We saw what Marquis Brown did as a wide receiver 1 before Lamar got hurt. I think Bateman can do it as well. The only reason he struggled last year, he started off injured, and then Lamar was injured. They never really got to mesh, but now he's that dude. Mark Andrews is still there to take away some pressure away from him, similar to a Juju and Travis Kelce type of deal. I think that Rashad Bateman is also a better type of wide receiver for Lamar Jackson. A little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. He's going to be a red zone threat. I really like him. I think, again, he can be, worst case, a high-end wide receiver too. You get him like in the 8th round, tremendous value. Then we go to Allen Lazard of the Green Bay Packers. And as you can see, I really do like the replacements for Devontae Adams now that he's no longer with the Packers. Allen Lazard, the most immediate replacement, obviously, a wide receiver, but Aaron Jones is going to eat as well. That's why we mentioned him earlier. Lazard proved that he was the wide receiver 2 for the Packers last season. Now it's only natural for him to ascend to that wide receiver 1 position for the team. Aaron Rodgers has the most trust in him. He's kind of the most in his peak compared to these other wide receivers. Like, don't get me started on Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins or even really the other rookies. Rodgers goes to the guys that he knows, that he trusts. Allen Lazard is in that category, and right now he is the most physical and just, the best skilled wide receiver that the Packers have. I think he is going to potentially take like a Jordy Nelson type of leap this season. Aaron Rodgers, simply put, makes the weapons around him elite. I think that's what we're going to see with Allen Lazard. The guy's going in the 9th, 10th round of drafts. He has got, wide receiver one type of upside, like a top 15 wide receiver. I think that's tremendous values. I'm absolutely targeting him everywhere I can get a chance to. Then we go to the quarterback position a little bit more so with Matthew Stafford and Derek Carr as our next two guys. I mentioned it before with Stafford. He's probably going to go down rankings a little bit because of that elbow concern, but that's allowing you to get him in the double-digit rounds. Last year, I highlighted him. I'm highlighting him again this season. He finished 6th overall at the quarterback position. I think he can do the exact same thing, if not better. You've added Allen Robinson, and, you've got that emergence in Cooper Kupp. You've still got a lot of weapons there, Van Jefferson as well. I like Matthew Stafford this season. Even if he doesn't finish as a top 5 guy, I think he finishes like in that 6th, 7th overall range, getting him in double-digit rounds. I'll take that all day long. Next, we go to Derek Carr of the Raiders, and Carr is one of my biggest sleepers at the quarterback position. I absolutely love him. If I don't draft a quarterback early in the double-digit rounds, give me Derek Carr all day long. I think with Devontae Adams, a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL now, the chemistry they had since college, with Hunter Renfrow, the huge step that he took last season, with a healthy Darren Waller, with a good offensive line. This team is absolutely loaded, again, similar to the Chiefs, playing in that division that's absolutely going to be high-scoring affair after high-scoring affair. I think Derek Carr could potentially lead the league in passing yards. Not enough people are talking about that. I will take him all day long. I think he is easily a top 10 quarterback on the season. And then finally, we've got Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears, throwing you guys one tight end here as well. We're not talking about the top 5 guys, but this is somebody, his ADP has gone up. I will say he's probably going around the 10th round. That has huge upside. And especially at the tight end position, volume is king, folks. Sure, he might not be, again, in that top 5 conversation, but what makes guys at the tight end position like be a borderline top 5 talent is high touchdown performance and huge volume. And Cole Kmet has the upside for both. Sure, he might be on a bad real-life team in the NFL and the Bears, but that doesn't mean jack for fantasy football purposes. He's going to get peppered with targets. After Darnell Mooney, he's the top target for the Bears, those short intermediate passes. Fields ain't going to have a lot of time, folks, with that bad offensive line. It's going to be short passes. Cole Kmet should benefit. No more Jimmy Graham as well, so his usage is going to increase in general in the red zone. I really like Cole Kmet this year. I would be all right with him as my, tight end 1 on the season. I think he's a top 10 tight end on the year, and definitely a sleeper that I'm targeting across all my leagues. But with that, we wrap up our breakdown of our top 15 must-own players for the 2022 fantasy football season. As always, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? What other names would you include on this list, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to get yourself a copy of the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you can want at a great value. All the details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.